For many, many years, there was a special connection between the East and the West. It wasn't just one road, but a huge network that helped move goods and, more importantly, spread new ideas across the world. Of course, we are talking about the famous Silk Road.
So, let's start with a simple question. When you hear the name Silk Road, what do you picture in your mind? Is it one long road that goes on for miles and miles? Let's find out if that's true.
Well, the short answer is no. It's a really common idea, but it's not quite right. The real story is actually much more interesting. Okay, so if it wasn't just one road, then what exactly was it? Let's take a closer look at what this ancient superhighway was really like.
Instead of thinking of one road, try to imagine a big web, a web of many different paths and routes for trade. This network was so important because it connected China in the east with Europe in the west, and it was used for a very long time.
And this network was huge. I mean, really huge. Altogether, the routes covered more than 6,000 kilometers. Just think about that. A trip like that would have taken months or maybe even years to travel back then.
And just so you know, all the information we're talking about in this explainer comes from historical texts that help us understand the past.
So you might be wondering, why is it called the Silk Road? Well, silk from China was very, very valuable, but it was just one of the many things that people traded. It was about so much more than just silk.
Let's start by looking at the things that traveled from the east to the west. China had some amazing goods to offer the world.
Of course, there was silk. It was so special that the whole network was named after it. But there were also other inventions, like paper and gunpowder, that were perhaps even more important. When these things arrived in the West, they changed history forever.
But, this wasn't a one-way street. Trade went in both directions, and the West also had things that were very popular in the East.
So what was going east? Well, things like gold and silver were very valuable. Different kinds of cloth, like wool, were also popular. These goods helped to keep the trade moving back and forth.
But maybe the most important things that traveled on the Silk Road were not goods at all. The Silk Road was like a bridge that connected different parts of the world, and this allowed people to share their culture and their ideas. You see, the people traveling these routes carried more than just things to sell. They carried their beliefs and their knowledge with them. This is how big ideas and even religions like Buddhism and Islam spread from one place to another. And because so many people were traveling and trading, new cities grew all along the Silk Road. These places weren't just for buying and selling. They became exciting centers of culture and learning, where new ideas could be shared.
Okay, so that's the history. But what about today? Is the Silk Road just a story from the past, or does it still mean something to us now?
Well, actually, the idea of the Silk Road is very important again. In fact, this old network is inspiring new projects today.
Right now, there are big projects happening to build new connections between Asia and Europe. The reason is the same as it was all those years ago, to make it easier for people to trade and travel. It's a great reminder that connecting the world, what we now call globalization, is not a new idea at all.
So when we look back at the amazing history of the Silk Road, what is the one big lesson we can learn from it?
I think this quote says it perfectly. The Silk Road proves that humans have always sought to connect with one another. It shows that people have always wanted to share, to trade, and to learn from each other. It's just a part of who we are.
And this leaves us with a really interesting question. In our world of the internet and fast planes, what is the Silk Road of the future? What are the new connections we are building today that will change the world for our children and grandchildren? Thanks for joining this explainer.